Hello, I'm Dennis Ryan, Chief Creative Officer at Olson in Minneapolis, and I just took these glasses off because it made it seem much more dynamic as I'm sitting here in this badly framed shot. I apologize, I'm shooting this on my iPhone and I'm kind of doing it last minute. But all that said, I am here to talk to you about creativity and the approach to creative that I think really makes a difference for advertising people. But more importantly, I want to talk about how it applies to you. Perhaps you're a planner, an account person, or a media person and think, hey, you know what, I'm not really creative and that's okay. Well, there's two things. First of all, you're wrong, and secondly, that's not okay. But too many people think I'm not creative enough. In fact, I Googled it, and when I did, I came up with 181 million results. Too many people think I'm not creative or it doesn't apply to me. That is simply wrong, and I don't want to hear it. Even though I won't, because this is a one-way monologue. Still, I wouldn't want to hear it if I were there, and I'll tell you why. In my experience, everyone is creative. You are creative. And think about it. You ever taken a plate of pancakes and make a little smiley face with syrup? Have you ever gotten out of a sticky social situation with a little white lie? These are simple, creative acts. It might not be the same as writing a 30-second television commercial or creating a website, but it's creativity nonetheless, because creativity is fundamentally human. Yeah, call later. Sorry about that. I want to show you something. Recognize this? These are images from the cave paintings at Lascaux. They were created some 14,000 years ago. These images represent the first art system in recorded history. But why did cavemen paint them? A lot of theories abound, but clearly they required mixing paints, they required elaborate scaffolding, they required lots of torchlight, and basically there was no cable during the Upper Paleolithic period. Still, they provided an outlet because people need to express their creativity. Of course, there is an upside to having so few people consider themselves creative. My career, I mean, look at it. I'm a chief creative officer. I'm not just creative, I'm a chief and an officer. I hold rank. And that right there should end the silliness. Because I mean, look at this. Do I look particularly creative? No, not really. Kind of a boring shirt, just typical guy. And yet, there's no denying that there's some half-wits in the industry who approach their job as if it's some kind of costume party. And if that's the way you roll, then good on you, dressy-dessy. For the rest of us, creativity is more about how you think. And the best way to start thinking creatively, no matter what discipline you work in, is to become curious. Curiosity is awesome stuff. I mean, think about it. It fuels basically every human accomplishment. I wonder if we can fly. I wonder if we can get to the moon. I wonder if we mix Mentos and Diet Coke, if it'll explode. Yes, yes, and of course, yes. Curiosity fuels our development from infancy to adulthood. And yet at some point along the way, we inevitably stop asking why, and we kind of slow down. But I promise you, if you're ever stuck with a problem, break it down by just asking these three questions. Why not, and what if? They will always lead to solutions. You know, it's funny, there's so many stories about innovation being driven by curious minds. In 1948, a guy named George Mistral took a hike in the Alps. And then when he came back, he had all these burrs stuck to his pants. And he pulled them off, and instead of doing what most of us do, just throw them out, he was curious. So he took one of them, took it under a microscope, and took a closer look. There he saw little hook-like fibers, and he realized that those hooks were what made it fasten to his wool pants. And so he spent the next 10 years developing a low adhesive based out of fabric that eventually became known as Velcro. Because George was curious, it led to a great breakthrough, a great innovation. So what sparks your curiosity? I know for me, I go out and I collect images. I have all kinds of crazy images I've found on the web or I've taken in my own life. And when you have things like this, they can be repository for inspiration. So what do you know that no one else does? Not just what inspires you, but your own personal experience. You know, I'm going to show you an old commercial right now that basically came out of one guy's real life experience. He went on a fishing trip with his dad and his brothers, and after a nice weekend, an unusually close weekend with his father, he just wanted to say, I love you, but he couldn't. And so he made this spot.
Dad?
Yeah?
There's something I want to tell you.
What is it, son?
Well, Dad, you're my dad. And I love you, man.
You're not getting my Bud Light, Johnny.
For the great taste that won't fill you up and never let you down, make it a Bud Light.
Ray, forget it, Johnny.
The amazing thing about that spot is it struck such a national chord because there are a lot of us guys who really can't quite come out and tell the people we're close to how we feel about them. And so this silly little Bud Light ad, because it was based in truth, really resonated. That's creativity. Taking what inspires you, taking what you know, and reinventing it for other people to see. Curiosity is fundamental to creativity, but there's another aspect of ideas that makes them more creative, and that's surprise. An insight inside a brief that is a new perspective has surprise. That makes it a great idea. Setting up a client meeting in a different location or changing expectations creates surprise, and that's a creative idea. The best creative ideas inevitably have an element of surprise. It's one of the reasons why this simple video we made for Gatorade, actually the last piece of video we made for it when I was at my last agency, had such a viral impact. It became the biggest viral hit of the summer it was launched because it had an element of surprise and people didn't see it coming.
3 balls and a strike to count to Brent Johnson. 1 out, top of the 7th inning. Fresno 2, Tacoma 1. Santos in a jam. That swung on and driven deep down the left field line toward the corner, and this ball is going to be... Oh, it's caught! It's not Jake Wald. It's the ball girl who makes the catch. She just sort of tosses him the ball, saying, "Take that, Jake." Let's look at that replay. Oh, my. What an amazing play. And now look at her sitting there saying, no big deal, like nothing ever.
We have lots of good ideas, but what every creative person needs to strive for, and therefore everyone in this room, not just writers and art directors, but everyone needs to strive for, are fresh, surprising ideas. And those are most often found down that road less traveled, the one that is driven by our curiosity. But if there's just one thing you're going to take away from this rambling piece of video, one conclusion that will help you become a more creative person beyond asking why not, what if, beyond trying to be more curious and ultimately more surprising, the one thing, be enthusiastic. I know we live in ironic times. I know we live in times where it's not cool to be hepped up by something. And yet, enthusiasm is the simplest way to create a creative environment. A positive environment, an environment that encourages ideas to build and be shared and to be tossed back and forth and grown. Enthusiasm is the simplest way to do all that because enthusiasm does feed creativity. And what is creativity? You know, there are a lot of people have different definitions of creativity, what it really means. You know what creativity means to me? Best definition I've ever heard. Creativity is the fun part. Creativity is the creamy filling in the middle of the Oreo. Creativity is the toy surprise in the Cracker Jack. Creativity is the mint on your pillow you find at the end of a long day. It makes things brighter. It increases the enjoyment of the human experience. So that's a decent thing to work for. You want to increase joy in the world? That's a great job to have. And that should be a vocation for all of us in any position. So come join me. Be more creative. God damn it, you're all creative, and I'm not going to listen to any of the foolishness that might say you're not. Be creative, be curious, be enthusiastic, and go be great. Thank you.